Yes, I've got a pretty long stretch with Winyah. I graduated from the Citadel in '69, and I came back, and actually I was waiting for a job interview down in Jacksonville. When my mother came home, she worked at the district office, came home and said there was a job opening at Winyah for a math teacher and assistant football coach. So I went and interviewed, and I got offered the job, and I took it. I worked at Winyah for 3 years as an assistant football coach, head baseball coach, and taught math and general science. They don't know what general science is anymore, but back then it was general science. Then I left for 2 years and went as an assistant coach in Camden, South Carolina, where my best friend from Winyah, Larry DiBiase, was the head basketball coach at Camden. He told me about that job, so I went and worked at Camden for 2 years with him. And then the head football coaching job at Winyah came open, and I came and applied for it. And I got that job in '72. And then, '74. And I was a head football coach at Winyah until we became Georgetown High School. And then I was the head football coach at Georgetown High School for 3 years. I don't know about a legend or not, but I did pretty well. I obviously played at Winyah. Back then, the freshmen, there wasn't a junior varsity team. The freshmen practiced with the varsity. So it was a pretty brutal year because we got beat up a lot. We were always ran the visiting team's offenses and defenses, and it was tough. But my sophomore year, I got a chance to play a good bit on defense. Junior year, I was backup running back, so I got to play a lot. Then Jimmy Killen, who was the star running back, got hurt, and I got to finish the junior year out as a starter on the varsity. And then my senior year, I had a pretty good senior year, and I was second team All-State, and got a couple of offers from 2 small schools, and then the Citadel offered, and my father was a Citadel cadet. He left to go to the war, and so he never graduated from Citadel, but he loved the Citadel with all his heart. In fact, we used to, every Saturday, we would get in the car and drive down Highway 17 toward Charleston until we could get the Citadel football games on the radio, park on the side of the road, and sit there and eat bologna sandwiches and listen to the football game. And so when I got the offer to the Citadel, I didn't hesitate and took it. And when I played football at the Citadel, I was a defensive back. Had some success. I was All-State for 2 years. I was All-Southern Conference for 2 years, and honorable mention All-American for 2 years. So it went pretty well. Yeah, I did play baseball. And at high school, I played football, basketball, and we didn't have a baseball team until my senior year, and that's when they started it. So yeah, I played baseball. At Citadel, I played football and baseball. And in 2001, I was voted into the Citadel Athletic Hall of Fame. So yeah, it went pretty well. It was pretty exciting. You know, with 3,000 people was a big crowd. I mean, and nowadays 3,000 people in high school is not a big crowd. But, the student body section was always full. In fact, I had to ask the band director to, at timeouts we had a timeout and I was trying to talk to my players, the band in the student section was right in front of where we were. And they would crank up the music and the students would start yelling and screaming. And I had to ask him to please, when we had a timeout, don't play anything. I couldn't hear what was being said. So that's how loud it would get. So yeah, it was very supportive. We had a great group. When I came back as head coach, the second year we won, well, the first, second, and third year, and the fourth year we won a conference championship. So yeah, it was pretty big deal. We didn't win one playoff game. We lost in the first round the other 2 years, but we were pretty successful. Wasn't the best student in the books, not because I wasn't smart enough, I just didn't put the effort into it. I saw one of the questions was about studying or homework, and I told my wife the other day, I can't remember doing homework. I'm sure I did, but I sure don't remember doing it. Foreign language was a killer. In fact, I would probably still be in high school if it wasn't for Miss Carolyn Black. I got through Spanish 1, but Spanish 2 was a killer because you were totally immersed and you spoke Spanish the whole time. Miss Black, and God bless her soul, she got me out of that. I'd have still been in that classroom. So like I said, school spirit was wonderful. All the athletic events, the student body supported. It was great. And like I said, when I came back, I mean, it had only been 4 years, so it wasn't like it had been a long period of time. It still was a great deal of school spirit. They still had the Olympics, which the classes competed against each other, and kids still got involved in that. But one of the neatest things about all of it is when I came back, there were teachers there who had taught me and teachers that I had respected a great deal, and now I was one of them. And that was really an awakening for me. So yeah, it was quite an experience. Nell Cribb, who was the secretary, the school secretary, she was just a wonderful, wonderful person. And I worked in the office for a couple of years on my free period, and she was just a wonderful person who always gave good advice. Mr. West, who was my geometry teacher, had a big influence on me because to this day geometry was my favorite subject and was also my favorite subject to teach. Ms. Olive was a big experience. Mr. Sweat, who taught me U.S. history, he was still there when I came back, and we really became really good friends. So those are probably the three that were my favorite. Well, my life was pretty much built around sports. I played football in the fall, so I had football practice after school. I played basketball in the winter, so I had basketball practice. I played baseball with the recreation department in the spring and the summer, so that's where I was. As far as school activities, not a lot at school other than dealing with athletics. I was on the student council for 2 years, and of course you have student council elections. And my senior year, I was voted in for secretary of the student council. That was, as a story, George Ralph Tellis was the president of the student council. So we would have a meeting, I would take the minutes home, and he would come to me the next day and say, Joe, I need the minutes from the meeting. Well, I hadn't even looked at them yet. I was the one that went home and rushed home and did something like that. So I had to change that because he wanted the minutes immediately. And so I had to go and transcribe what I had taken and make him happy. So I was on the student council, so I was involved that way. I was in the Spanish club. Why, I don't know, but I was in the Spanish club. So yeah, I was very active with my friends and doing things around school. Wow. Again, this might be weird, but my entire life was built around athletics. Of course, we went to the movie theater. We had the Strand Theater and we had the Palace Theater. You could take 50 cents and go to the theater, have a box of popcorn and a Coke, and you would, it was pretty nice back then. we had school dances. We went, participated in. Of course, the junior senior year, big things that we did. That's another thing. When I came back, I was the junior class faculty sponsor, so I was in charge of the junior senior, and that was an experience. Of course, the junior year, that's when you build everything and you create the theme for the junior senior. I'll never forget Ron Edgerton and myself. We were working with the junior class, and the prom was going to be out at the National Guard Armory on Highway 17. So we went out there the first of the week. They had given us the big auditorium, and we started decorations, and we built this big centerpiece in the middle of the floor, and then we had this, I can't remember what the theme was, but we had this giant mural that we had kids built and we had put up on the wall. It took about 2/3 up high on the wall. The wall was probably 20 feet high, so it was probably 10, 12 feet high. And the prom was Saturday night, and Ron and I showed up there about 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon, and the mural was laying down on the floor. So the two of us had to put it back up somehow, and we did it. I don't know how we did it, but we got it back up. And of course, it was a great time. The kids didn't care. They come in and look one time, and then all they want to do is have fun and socialize with each other and enjoy themselves. So it went well. Oh yes, we always went to the pavilion. Everybody went to the pavilion. That was a weekend staple in the summertime. The pavilion was quite a place. A lot of good memories there. A lot of good memories there. Yeah, I did. In fact, when the Whistling Pig, we cruised the Whistling Pig, and that was where I was in Charleston when I met or saw my wife for the first time. She was cruising Sonic in Charleston, and we were just sort of parked there, and I saw her. So, yeah, we cruised the Pig all the time. That was a big deal. Pretty simple, and you look at the building and you say, that's cruising. It was probably, 20, 30 yards total around the whole building. But yes, that was a big thing. It was, you would go around the Pig, then you go down Highway 17 and take a left, and you go to the red light at Front Street, and you take a left at Front Street, go down Front Street, come back up St. James, and cruise the Pig again. So that was the way you did it. Yes and no. I would go. I mean, I went a lot, and I certainly got a tan in the summertime from being at the beach, but that wasn't something that I did on. That's not something I did every day in the summertime, because, like I said, my summer and I was built around athletics, and I was playing baseball or whatever. Now the pier at Paul's Island, back then it was public, and we spent a lot of time there. I fished off the pier. It was, yeah, but no, I wasn't a diehard beach fan. Let's see how I can answer that so my wife doesn't see this. There was two girls that I dated when I was in high school, and God bless them, they both passed away. One was Linda Harder. She was my, I guess, junior class sweetheart, and then Sister Luthi, Elizabeth Luthi, but her nickname was Sister. I dated her when I was a senior, and so that was the two that I dated when I was in high school. No, I met her in Charleston. Uh, this was between my freshman and sophomore year at the Citadel. I was at summer school, and a friend and I were parked at one of the drive-through restaurants, and my wife Cheryl and another boy she was with drove through the parking lot, and Choppy, that was the boy I was with, spoke to her. And I told Choppy, I said, I want to date her this summer. And I had come home for the weekend. I went back. Choppy said, we're going to play bridge and I played bridge. He said, we're going to play bridge. We need a fourth. You want to go? I said, sure. Well, when I went, Cheryl was there. And so I called her shortly after that. We started dating, and we've been together ever since. I went to school, we had 800 students. My grandchildren are, only 8, 6, and 3, so they haven't experienced that, but they're going to go to a high school that has over 3,000 students. So there's no way they're going to get faced or have the opportunity to have the closeness with the people, the number of people that I was able to, because of the smallness of our campus and the number of people we were dealing with. Oh, they're going to make friends. They've already made friends. Joseph, who is 8 in the second grade, has already made friends that he's going to be friends with probably for the rest of his life. So, but it's just not the same simply because they don't have the campus life that we would be able to have, because things were just totally different, the way things were run and how we were able to move around campus. And I guess I don't want to say it's more tense, but we were much more relaxed as a student body back when I was in school. I hope that, things continue on a good line for my grandchildren. I want them to have the experiences that I had and my wife had and their mother and father had, which were all very positive. And I hope that takes place for them. Oh yeah, I had a big family presence here. In fact, someone asked me about friendships when I was that age or in high school or younger, and I had some like Larry DiBiase and Charlie Gaskins and Mike Johnson, great friends. Sidney Johnson, they were very close friends of mine, but family was where my friendships were. I mean, that's who we would spend a night at family houses. We would go over to my cousin's house and play during the day or on the weekends. And I had a large family here in Georgetown, large family. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, well, most of the time, that was a good thing. And having family around, it was different. Back then, every Sunday after church, we went and visited my father's mother and father. We went and visited my mother's mother and father, and that was just going to be done. We were going to do that. And you just didn't walk in, say hi, and walk out. You walked in, you sat down, you socialized, you ate one of the luxuries that they cooked. In our case, it was Lebanese food. I'll never forget my grandmother on my mother's side, Granny Joseph. When we would come, she knew we were coming. It was after the late Mass at St. Mary's. We would get in the car, we'd drive there, and she would be at the stove making lunch, and she was making kibbe. It's a Lebanese dish. Well, we ate raw kibbe before you got cooked. You actually did it. And there would be 2 rolls sitting there of raw kibbe, and Linda and Martha and my sisters would want one of them. Well, she would cut one in half to give to them, and I got the big one. Every Sunday, I got a big piece of raw kibbe because she had it ready for me. Ground meat, but it's the finer ground meat. I don't know what you call it. And it's got meat in it and different things, and you roll it up and you put it on a pan and you bake it. And it's, but you actually eat it raw, truly raw, and it was good. So having family around our life was built around family, and we try to do that now. Unfortunately, a lot of our family is no longer with us. So one of my sisters lives in Mount Pleasant. She lives right around the corner from where we do. So we see her a lot. My other sister lives in Maryland. We talk on the phone a lot. In fact, we just got back from visiting, taking the kids up there and visiting with her last weekend. But, you know, my having family around was a great thing. I was the only boy, and let me tell you something, being the only boy in a Lebanese family, that's a good thing. I had, my sisters talk about how they were punished for this and they were punished for that, and then they say, and Joe didn't ever get punished. He never did anything wrong, which was true in the eyes of my parents. I have to admit that. But on my mother's side, for a while, I was the only male grandchild. Let me tell you, that was a blessing too. On my father's side, I had four cousins, who were all males. But I mean, we all got along together really well. But like I said, a male in the Lebanese culture, back then anyway, was a very special position to be in. And my wife told me, one of the first things she told me, of course she said this jokingly, but I knew she meant it, I am not Lebanese. So. Well, I guess the thing I remember the most about Winyah, other than athletics and classes, was the fun we had as kids during lunch break or recess or after school, just sitting around on the benches outside of school, on the grass, and just socializing and just having a great time with each other. The camaraderie was unbelievable. We've had a number of reunions, and they've all been wonderful. We had a little group that I hung out with, and we got together a number of years ago. It was about 15 people. Larry DiBiase, a friend of mine who was my best friend in high school, he has a place up at Clemson, and we went up there on the lake, and we all met there and had a little mini reunion. And they were sitting around spouting all these things off that took place at Winyah High School, and I looked at them, I said, did we go to the same school? Because like I told you, my memory doesn't run like that. But there were a lot of good memories, and a lot of people that I still communicate with that we went to high school together. And so I guess the camaraderie and the friendships and the fun we had together on that campus would be my greatest memories. I walked. I wasn't but a block away every day. I walked to school. Actually, sometimes I actually got to go home for lunch because it was so close, and I would ask permission, and I would. And of course, there was always food there, so that wasn't a problem. But I loved the food in the cafeteria. We had some great food in the cafeteria. Cinnamon rolls, you can't beat them. Never in my life have I tasted a better cinnamon roll than they made at the cafeteria at Winyah High School. Fried chicken. Of course, nowadays they're probably not allowed to serve fried chicken in cafeterias, but they made some good fried chicken too. So that was a good thing. Well, the discipline was very strict because back then you knew that if Mr. Rice had to call you to the office or you were sent to the assistant principal's office, your parents were going to find out. And that was a fearful thing because your parents were going to support the administration. They weren't going to say, you're right, they're wrong. The administration is right. So therefore, I knew I didn't want to get in trouble, and everybody did, because it was going to get home to mom and daddy. Nowadays, it's a tad bit different. Now, the administration still has the rules and regulations they have to enforce, but now not so much support from mom and dad as they did back then. Even when I was an administrator for, I don't know what it was, 88, for about 12 years. dealing with mom and daddy was a lot more difficult than dealing with the child who had committed the offense. And I think that's one of the biggest difference now. We were able to, we paddled back when I was an assistant principal. We paddled back when I was an athletic director. Mr. Taylor took care of one side of the street at Winyah. I took care of the other side. You got in trouble on my side of the street, I handled the discipline, and he did it on the other side. Now you paddle, you end up in court defending yourself. So it's a whole lot different, but there's still a lot of discipline in schools. I'm not saying there's not, but you got to be a lot more careful in how you handle yourself and what you do in your discipline. I never had any plans whatsoever to become a teacher. When I was at Citadel, I majored in business administration. But for some reason that I cannot explain to today, I took all my electives in the education field. So when I got the job, I really didn't have that many courses I had to take to become certified. I had the courses to become certified in economics, but not in math. So I had to go back and take some math courses. It took about a year and a half, I guess, and I got them all done and got certified in mathematics. And no, I had no plans to teach whatsoever. And I don't know if I'd have taken the job as a teacher if the coaching job wasn't part of it. So I did that, and I was in the profession for 31 years. So I guess I ended up where I belonged. Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful when I was there. In other words, you had a pep rally. Nobody missed a pep rally. Everybody came to the pep rally, and the energy was there. It was just a great time. When I came back, it truly hadn't changed. It was still kids who were at Winyah High School loved Winyah High School, and they supported Winyah High School. And of course, we integrated Winyah High School when fully integrated. We had a few African Americans, but then we fully integrated. And Mr. Rice, who was the principal, asked me, for some reason I really don't know, to be the faculty member that was responsible for sort of being involved with meeting with the kids and sort of making sure everything sort of blended together well. And I'll never forget, I had a meeting in the gymnasium with all of the African American students who were there. And it was me and them. And we really had a great discussion. They had a couple of people who sort of handled the talk for them. It wasn't a bunch of people yelling, it was just talking. And we really got a lot of things straight that needed to be, at least how they felt, which I could take back to the administration. And I think this helped a lot in the process of fully integrating Winyah High School. Oh, it wasn't easy by any means, because it was new for everybody, but it got done. I would say probably learning about their culture, which I had no knowledge of whatsoever. And once that was done, you worked that way. So it worked out well. Well, when I came back, the administration was still the same. And like I said, a lot of the teachers were still there because it was only 4 years different. So I didn't see a lot of change. Now, in that period of time, we got Mr. Rice retired, and Steve Eubanks came as a principal, and then things changed because you've got a different person leading the show. But he did a great job, and he became real good friends of mine. And but nothing on the negative side. It was always, Winyah High School was always a very tight group of people. People loved the school, and they showed it in how they supported the school. I drove. I had first and second. I'm not sure it's exactly right, but I had first and second period at Winyah, and the third period was free, and then I had fourth and fifth period at Howard. So I would drive over and was able to get in my classroom without any trouble. I taught till '88, then I became an assistant principal, and until I retired, I had a one-year stretch where I filled in as principal at Winyah High School, but I came back to assistant principal at Georgetown, and I stayed there till I retired in 2000. I think it was 2000. So I was there for 12 years. Yes, Winyah was a very special place. I remember the night that I got the phone call from a student. They said, Coach Isaac, Winyah High School is burning down. Of course, I questioned them, and they said, yeah, well, I wasn't going to jump in my car and go to town until I was sure, so I called the police department. And sure enough, they told me the school was on fire. Well, I came in, and my house where I lived the whole time was only a block away from the high school. So I parked there, and I walked to the high school, and sure enough, she was burning heavy then. And that was probably obviously the saddest memory I ever had about Winyah High School. Well, immediately it was a lot of chaos because nobody knew what was going on. We didn't have school for a few days, and they worked it out where we were going to have classes in the old elementary building. And we came back and got started, and it's amazing how fluid it went and how good we got things started getting back to school. And then, of course, there'd been talk for a number of years about combining the two schools, and of course it never went anywhere because neither side wanted that to happen. And of course, when the school burnt down, that was a whole different story, and then that sort of steamrolled, and the process started to combine the two schools. And the first thing they wanted to put together actually as Georgetown High School was the athletic department, because that's something that you really could bring together and be a cohesive and give everybody something to cheer about as far as the new school was concerned. So we started in '82. We had our first football season. I was awarded the job as the head football coach and athletic director of Georgetown High School. We had the Georgetown High School Winyah campus and the Georgetown High School Howard campus. Because I was the only person who was really doing things at both schools, I taught classes at both schools. I had 2 math classes at Winyah and 2 math classes at Howard that I taught. It was a pretty difficult procedure considering I had athletes on 2 different campuses who didn't get to see each other during the day. The only time they saw each other was at practice. But it was amazing how well those kids came together and did what was necessary to create a good football program. I always told them, if we can keep the adults out of this process, we'll be in good shape because you guys are doing a great job of what we're trying to do. So it went well, pretty good. We put the team together. I think it went a long way to combining the two. I was the head football coach and athletic director for 3 years. When we were getting ready to move into the new building, I had met with Mr. Moutry and told him that I didn't really think I was a person any longer. I just didn't have the desire to do what it took to bring everything over to the new building. So that's when I resigned as head football coach and athletic director and went to the math classroom full time.